Thanks for joining me on Life in Surround. It's time for Rhino Records Quadio Bundle 6, Batch 6. You can order them at this time. Stay tuned. I'm going to be giving my, least favorite to my most preferred. It's just my personal preference and my recommendation if you agree with my taste. And I'm going to be pasting a copy of what I believe to be an active 10% off code in the notes. So I hope you get plenty out of this video. And if you love quadraphonic music as much as I do, and you're excited that classic quadraphonic titles are being rescued from analog obscurity, like Q8 tape and CD4 LP and stuff like that, and brought into the modern age, either to SACD or Blu-ray, then stay tuned. I appreciate you watching, appreciate your support. And not only of my channel, but if you feel so inclined to support Rhino Records, I would be grateful for that because I am grateful for the Quadio series and I want to see it persist, and it will do so if these titles simply sell reasonably well. Okay, so without further ado, I just want to give a special thank you to Steve Woolard, the producer of this Quadio series, among other titles from Rhino. He not only, is lovingly curating this series, which I deeply personally appreciate, but he also happened to send me this batch of Quadio. So um, some of you have sent me, loaner copies in the past, and I bought some myself, and I've had, some benefactors, and it all helps me keep bringing you information about multi-channel music, and it's all appreciated. All right, so without further ado, let's talk about bundle number 6 of Quadio from Rhino Records. I'm going to start off with my least preferred to my most preferred of the 4 titles. So stay tuned to the end if you want my top recommendation from this batch. So let's start off with Foghat Energized. Because 2 of these titles appeared on the later double platinum live album from Foghat called Live, I wanted to bring your attention to Honey Hush and Home in My Hand. They're both fairly unadventurous mixes. One of them has drums up front, one of them has drums in the rear. And so, like, the only other thing that the mixing engineers could do would be to put the guitars up in the front, juxtaposed from the drums, and then or the guitars in the back. So this was very sparsely recorded. You just have vocals, bass, drums, and guitars. So they did what they could do. I found Home in My Hand to be the more interesting mix of the two, but it isn't very adventurous. And I just want to say this is like my least preferred, not in small part because of the cover of That'll Be the Day. I can't believe that a band would choose to play that song straight instead of swinging it with some syncopation, and it's just jarring to me, and I never need to hear it again. So, if you are a diehard fan of Foghat, you can just, agree to disagree. It sounds plenty good, and the mix isn't very adventurous though, so it is a easy pass for me personally. All right. Now, that takes us to Bloodshot by Geils Band. I think it would be funny if, like, you had a sibling Giles, the Giles Band. That is a very bad dad joke. But in any case, I chose to go with Give It To Me. It was a top 20 single, and it was the first single from the band to break the top 20. Lead vocal, front and center, stereo panned, 2 different rhythm guitars up front, harmonica up front right. Then you have background vocals in the rears, drums in the rears, bass in the rears, and lead guitar in the rears. This is a bit more interesting mix to me than Foghat, and it sounds plenty good. And if you're into sort of a party rock vibe, this could be a good acquisition for you. And if you already know the album from, Analog Quad, and you just want to, preserve the legacy of this album to, optical, I believe it is well mastered, and you're not going to be disappointed if you already know what to expect. You should go for it. if you're a fan of the album. So it's my number 3. Now, my number 2, and then, thus my number 1, may be a bit of a surprise. Those of you who are in the know are aware that Toulouse Street by the Doobie Brothers is included in this batch, and many of you may be aware that it indeed has the same mastering as the box set version, the Quadio box of the Doobie Brothers. Now, it's my understanding that the box set is sold out and nobody knows whether it will be repressed. And, I think we can expect that if this Quadio standalone Blu-ray series persists, that we'll eventually get all 4 of these albums released individually. So this could be your chance to begin acquiring these and not go for the potentially crazy out-of-print prices of the box. It's the same mastering. I chose to revisit Jesus Is Just All Right with drums and percussion spread, in different parts of the room, particularly when the song hits its slow jam section. There's plenty of ear candy going on here. And to my ears, this sounds great on my dedicated quad system, with 4 full range speakers and plenty of bass. I am aware that like not everybody who has heard, the box set is in love with the mastering. I am no audiophile. I'm a quadiophile, and this gets good marks sonically from me for what that's worth. So Toulouse Street, in case you want to begin acquiring the individual titles so you can eventually sell your box, or you don't possess the box and you want to begin enjoying some Doobie Brothers, this has several massive hits that, I don't know how well they did in the day, but they certainly have persisted on classic rock radio. And so there's going to be plenty of recognition and, nostalgic recognition for plenty of listeners. And so this could be a very desirable title for many of you. Now, if you're aware of the albums that have been released in this bundle, you have, by process of elimination, determined my number 1 pick. It's going to be Dragonfly by Jefferson Starship. This album has, in my opinion, an incredibly strong side A. It rivals Foghat for being the heaviest of the albums in this bundle. And so now you've also determined that this bundle is 4 rock albums rather than kind of a mixture of show tunes and jazz and some light rock and, singer-songwriter and stuff like that. So I chose to focus on the track Caroline. It stretches out at over 7 minutes. It starts out with lush, stereo panned, 12-string guitars, and it has guitar swells favoring the front of the room. It's got background vocals. Grace Slick is up in front left, if I recall, lead vocal front center, but it's got some background vocal stuff going on in the rears, if I recall. Rhythm guitars up front in stereo, and then lead guitar in the rear right. So plenty of interest for those that are into classic quad mixology and, just infectious bass lines across this album and incendiary lead guitar playing. In my opinion, like the lead guitar on this album may have been ahead of its time. It got into sort of like a cut loose, almost like a tapping kind of thing, where I find side A particularly of this album to be quite exciting. This was my first exposure to the album, giving it a chance on, Blu-ray quad. And so this is my number 1 pick. And if you are just a fan of hard rock, I would go ahead and give this a try. And so I'm going to go ahead and show off a bit more of the production here. So the Blu-rays are printed so they mimic the original, LP labels. Get some master tape porn description of how quad works. And so anyway, again, I just want to say thank you to Rhino Records for doing Quadio. This is bundle number 6. If you're a fan of any of these albums or the bands in question, I think that you're going to be plenty happy with the Sonics. The mixing is classic quad mixing, so your mileage may vary. Sometimes it sounds weird. Sometimes it sounds, more or less modern if the drums are up front and, you know, it's part of the charm of classic 70s quad. So I appreciate you watching. I want to see what your preferences are, particularly if you get a chance to hear these Blu-rays. Go ahead and leave your comments below. Let everyone else know what you think about Quadio, about batch number 6, what your preferred or least preferred of these albums may or may not be. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. If you indeed like what I do, I appreciate your support. I appreciate you supporting Rhino, should you choose to do so. And again, I'm going to leave a 10% discount code in the description of the video just to try to help you out. Don't blame me if it doesn't work. I hope it will. And happy listening. And per usual, I encourage all of you to live life in surround.